Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
And finally, as you all saw yesterday, a federal judge denied the Associated Press's emergency motion for a temporary restraining order against myself, our Deputy Chief of Staff Taylor Budowich, and our Chief of Staff Susie Wiles for our decision to remove the Associated Press from the White House press pool for certain and special events. The judge's ruling, upholding our decision to deny the Associated Press such privileged access, reinforces the truth. And it reiterates what I said from this podium last week when that suit was filed. Asking the President of the United States questions in limited spaces such as the Oval Office in Air Force One is a privilege that unfortunately has only been granted to a few. It is not a legal right for all. The Trump administration has already proven to be the most transparent ever, and this president the most accessible in history. This is evidenced by President Trump's daily press conferences in the Oval Office, where he takes many questions from the journalists who have the honor and privilege of standing before the beautiful Resolute desk. The President and this entire White House are committed to ensuring the American people continue to receive this same level of historic transparency, access, and visibility. In fact, we want to double down and give even greater access to the American people. We want more outlets and new outlets to have a chance to take part in the press pool, to cover this administration's unprecedented achievements up close, front and center. As you all know, for decades, a group of D.C.-based journalists, the White House Correspondents Association, has long dictated which journalists get to ask questions of the President of the United States in these most intimate spaces. Not anymore. I am proud to announce that we are going to give the power back to the people who read your papers, who watch your television shows, and who listen to your radio stations. Moving forward, the White House press pool will be determined by the White House press team. Legacy outlets who have participated in the press pool for decades will still be allowed to join, fear not, but we will also be offering the privilege to well-deserving outlets who have never been allowed to share in this awesome responsibility. Just like we added a new media seat in this briefing room, legacy media outlets who have been here for years will still participate in the pool, but new voices are going to be welcomed in as well. As part of these changes, we will continue the rotation amongst the 5 major television networks to ensure the President's remarks are heard far and wide around this world. We will add additional streaming services which reach different audiences than traditional cable and broadcast. This is the ever-changing landscape of the media in the United States today. We will continue to...
America needs a return of the free press. Welcome back to Transition Tuesday. We'll keep calling it that until the Trump administration's fully in place. Well, the Rob Maness Show is live on Worldview Tube. Our X Spaces simulcast, Rumble, YouTube, Truth Social Plus, Amazon Fire, and Roku. Press Secretary Carolina Leavitt there announced last Tuesday in that video that the White House has taken control over the makeup of the White House press pool, brushing aside the liberal White House Correspondents Association. The WHCA provided a laughable response to that, screeching that the move is an attack on a free and independent press. Consider those words in the context of what we've learned about the USAID scandal and its funding of American media outlets for the specific purpose of influencing American society. Yes, hundreds of millions of your tax dollars being given to press outlets like the Associated Press and Reuters and Politico, so you get the government message. The rot and corruption are much deeper than you realize, however. Outlets like Reuters and AP are heavily involved in how much access independent and legacy media outlets most use content like the Presidential Press Pool video live stream and breaking news content that they produce. My guest today is here to discuss the treatment his independent media company has received at the hands of these government propaganda outlets from firsthand experience. We'll also discuss tonight's biggest breaking news today, the presidential address to Congress. It's a State of the Union address. Let's go ahead and call it that, because my guest is a newsman. CEO of World YouTube, Brandon House, is my guest today. Brandon's the author of more than 16 books, a senior media chief executive officer who has led groundbreaking efforts such as launching and operating Lindell TV with Mike Lindell. His documentary films are world-renowned. He's a legendary Christian and family radio broadcaster, and his venture in digital broadcasting here at World YouTube is breaking new ground in the independent media ecosystem. Brandon, welcome to the Rob Maness Show for the very first time. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me on, Colonel. Appreciate it.
All right, you just got off of what, 2 hours of radio?
I just did an hour of radio. We do about 4 hours of live programming here a day. Last week they had me at the news desk for 6 hours, the boys did, without letting me stand up. 6 hours. I told them it's elder abuse. It's approaching elder abuse.
Well, if it was me, I'm 63, it would definitely be elder abuse. My goodness, that's a long time. Well, World YouTube it's not new, right? It's been around a while. You've been working in this business since, what, 1990-ish?
Yeah, I started my public speaking in 1990, my first book in public speaking in 1990, then started doing radio as a guest regularly in 1993 with my first book. I was doing radio before that, but I started going into big radio in 93 with Michael Reagan, Oliver North, G. Gordon Liddy, Ken Hamlin. And then from there, I sat in for Michael Reagan for the first time in 1995. The first show I ever hosted solo, not where I wasn't a guest, actually the host for 3 hours. And I did that for him many times, became his regular guest host, sat in for him when he was away at his dad's funeral for President Reagan. And then in 96, I got picked up by a network in Milwaukee to start doing guest hosting and regular programming for them. And I'm still with that same network 29 years later, and that's the 74 terrestrial stations I just got off of. And then in 2006, I started World YouTube. So we were asked to start a TV show for a network that just got a channel on DirecTV. They called up and said, we'd like to have an hour show once a week on Worldview. And so I started that show, and that's when I also started Worldview Tube in 2006.
Well, and now it's a network that has 24-hour live streaming on channels like Roku or I'm sorry, on
Rumble,
Social
Roku, all kinds of stuff.
All of those, and we're truly an independent digital broadcasting outlet. We're doing some unique things that have been copied by networks like InfoWars, like what we're doing right now on this show is the X Spaces simulcast with a live audience. I even saw Charlie Kirk do it on his live stream broadcast a week ago or so. So I don't know that he got the idea from us, but we're going to take credit for it here at World YouTube Network. Well, Brandon, you and I had a conversation about how the network is trying to make inroads and get our correspondent in D.C. A seat at the table in the White House press corps, and this discussion of, that you were telling me some facts about how they've treated us. I wanted to do a show on this to get it documented because it's just really it's abominable what we're seeing with the press in the 21st century, and maybe it's bleed over from the 20th century too. But I used to believe in a free press the way it's laid out in the First Amendment. You know, that it's basically the watchdog on government for the American people. But this White House Correspondents Association seems to be a non-government organization that's a watchdog for the left now to make sure they get their best job. Is that an accurate depiction?
I think it is. I don't want the guys to show my computer screen because I don't want to give away people's private information. But let me just read to you the letter that I received. We applied to belong to the White House Press Corps Association, the White House Correspondents Association. I went online, filled out the information, paid the money for the annual dues, and waited for my application to be approved or rejected. First of all, I got an email, kind of a snide email. I wish you guys could learn to follow instructions. We said we needed a letter from your supervisor, to which I replied in the email to the guy, that's a real problem. I'm the CEO of the company and founder. I don't have a supervisor. How would you like to proceed from here? He never responded. So I find it a little odd that they're so apparently unaware of how corporations run that a CEO would want to apply for himself and his company, and they somehow are asking me for a letter from my supervisor. So a little lame on their part. Then they didn't even respond when I asked, well, how would you like to go from here, since I am the founder and CEO? I could have one of my guys in the control room apply and then give them the letter, being that I'm their supervisor. They clearly weren't interested, I don't think, in us belonging. So they apparently just took the application as it was without responding back to me. They could have said, hey, we're going to take it as it is and we'll let you know. But they didn't even respond. Then out of the blue, I get a letter back on February 18th. Let me read it to you. This is from the Executive Director, White House Correspondents Association. I regret to inform you that your application for membership has been declined. Your application was carefully reviewed by a committee of journalists looking at your listed news organization and your assignment based on all of the information you provided and any other information they found available. They did not see evidence that you are employed on the editorial staff of a newspaper, periodical, wire service, radio, TV, or other news gathering organization that reports on the White House as required by our bylaws. I will refund your dues payment, end quote. Well, here you go. I responded saying, apparently you didn't look very hard as I report on the White House every night. Yeah, every night we have a show with Neil McCabe, who was a White House reporter, who at one time belonged to the White House Correspondents Association. If they went to worldyoutube.com, they would have clearly seen what we do. We have a second player there where whenever President Trump speaks, we do our best to carry it from the White House. Okay? So they clearly didn't do their homework, or they're not being fully honest, or they're just clueless. Or they just don't want us to belong, which I think, in my opinion, that's the kicker. Now, we, of course, would like to belong to the press pool. We would be more than happy to talk to them about providing a cameraman. To be a part of the pool, we would like to see your guy get vetted by the Secret Service, fill out the information, which I've done several times. I'm sure you've done, Colonel. Logan's done it multiple times. We've been at Mar-a-Lago. If they would have gone on our website and done any research, they would have seen us conducting interviews with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago. So we would be happy to go through that process and say, okay, you need to have a cameraman available on X weekend, the third weekend of the month, or whatever it is, or this day or this week, and we're going to share the responsibility of covering the White House or the president. Should he go from the White House to Camp David or Mar-a-Lago or wherever, we got to have our people ready to stream what's going on. Fine. Tell us. Yeah. Tell us when and where. We'll make a budget for it. We were never given options. We kept inquiring of options. We're willing to help pay the dues and the cost of a pool camera guy. No, I don't think they want us involved. And then we go to Reuters and we're like, hey, what's it cost to buy some streams from you guys? I think the cost was around $1,300 a month. Are you ready for the kicker on this one? $1,300 a month to pull, different things going on. Footage that we had for hours of the Potomac as they were trying to pull the plane out of the Potomac that went down. Tragedy, right? And we used some of it, and we covered some of that. Great footage. Thank you, Reuters. Happy to get it. Pool footage. And then there might be something going on in Gaza and a pool camera there. Thank you. Happy to use that. Right. But then when it came to getting stuff from the White House, Colonel, there would be something there. And what was the way it was worded, Logan? U.S. restricted? U.S. restricted. Why? If I pay you $1,300 a month, why should I be U.S. restricted from footage of President Trump speaking from the Oval Office or inside the White House? Then I find out these companies and news groups got millions, some of them millions, of dollars in
Oh,
taxpayer money. And now you're going to tell me you're going to take my tax-paying dollars and my audience tax-paying dollars. You're going to charge me $1,300 a month to get your pool feed. Then you're going to exclude me from the pool feed coming out of the White House when you're basically now, in my opinion, a quasi-utility taking government money. This is garbage.
Exactly right. Well, Brandon, we got to take a commercial break real quick. When we come back, I want to continue that conversation and get your thoughts on the White House's control over this and whether that's going to be better or worse or stay the same. And get your continued thoughts on the funding using government tax dollars of these media outlets that are restricting the use of the independent press and availability of that so that we can report on it accurately. We'll be right back with the CEO of Worldview 2, Brandon House, right here on the Rob Maness Show.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
USAID outflows to mainstream media outlets like Politico, or to Reuters, for example. I mentioned that there's $300 million in grants that were given by the Biden administration from various government agencies to Reuters, while Reuters won a Pulitzer for Reuters was the tip of the spear for all anti-Trump reporting, and they won a Pulitzer in the year 2024 for their series on Elon Musk and malfeasance by Elon Musk and his companies at all of his different portfolio companies, Tesla, Neuralink, SpaceX, X. At the same time that Biden from the White House had asked the U.S. government, had replied to reporters that regulators should look into Elon Musk, and that 11 different U.S. government regulatory bodies and agencies were pursuing adverse action against all four of those very agencies that Reuters was won its Pulitzer for writing hit pieces about.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. Yes, we need a free press here in the United States of America. It's essential to the way our government is supposed to work. It's essential to protecting the rights of the American people. And quite honestly, it's failing. It's been failing for quite some time. That was Mr. Mike Benz on the Sean Ryan Show talking about these American media outlets getting hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer funding in order to do what? To get government messaging out that is opposed to the American people, to try to take down Donald Trump, to try to take down Elon Musk, to massage that messaging to the American people. It's a propaganda effort is what it is. It's not only wrong, it's unethical, it's illegal. And my guest today is the CEO of Worldview 2, Brandon House. We're talking about how the White House Correspondents Association has treated our independent media outlet, and whether we think we can get into the White House press corps again, because we have a D.C. correspondent. You mentioned him, Brandon, in the first segment, Neil McCabe, who's been a member of the WHCA. Has the press secretary's office set new rules now to maybe we have a better opportunity to get our presence in there?
Well, they have, and that was a great speech by the press secretary that you played at the beginning of your broadcast. The issue is when I think we were getting great communication with the White House press office, communications office, before they made the announcement of their website address where people could apply. We were having great conversation, communication. They sent us the paperwork. We filled it out, the Secret Service background for me, for Logan. Any of our guys could fill out, you could fill out, which would begin the process for hard passes for us to be there at press briefings or to go there for special occasions and report from the White House front lawn or from Pebble Beach, as they call it. That's historically what they've called it. For those who don't know, they have an area set out in front of the White House. If you're looking at the White House to right on the driveway there, and it traditionally had a bunch of small pebbles there because they were wearing the grass down. So they kind of got the nickname Pebble Beach many, many years ago. And you could set up there and do hits from there with your network. That was all going great. And then when they announced that they were opening it up to everybody that wanted to apply, which we appreciated, we understood within a few hours they had 10,000 requests. I think that has now been such an overwhelming number that now it's very difficult to get the response that we're needing from the communications office and the White House press office. So we're waiting for things to kind of flesh out, this flood of inquiries to settle down and pick it back up. So that's what's going on right now. But I will tell you, without naming the network, because I'm not at liberty to say, a major conservative network we talked with them, we've worked together, we've shared assets and production and worked together. And we were talking about the problem that we were having, and the individual said, we're having the same issue. This was before Caroline made the comment about the White House Press Corps Association that you read this week, or played this week. And I told him about our letter that we were circulating to key people tied to President Trump. And this individual, this network said, will you send that over to me? I'd like to circulate that as well. So I kind of detailed what I told you guys here on this show. I put that in a letter, circulated it around, sent to that network, and other networks in the conservative world were having the same problem. Then when about a week later, 10 days later, here comes Caroline with her statement. So the good news is, I don't know if any of them saw my letter. I'm not taking credit for not saying that. But I will say we're not the only one that's been receiving this kind of issue. And I think it finally percolated up. We had a great announcement as you played it by her. We'll see what continues to unfold. But the press, the White House Press Corps Association, the powers that be, I don't think they're happy at all about the new media. And reality is, go look at the ratings of MSNBC and CNN. I think there are nights that our numbers, weeks that our numbers, I think they'd like to have some of those, or we're not far off. I mean, it's amazing. So, it's not uncommon for us to have 1 million views in a 24-hour period. That's uncommon.
Yeah, exactly right. MSNBC's been firing people left and right, too. Big names here recently. CNN's already gone through a lot of that, too. But you think they're trying to come back to a more centrist presentation, get some of the audience?
I think they are. And you see that Bezos is, I guess going to open it up and put for more individual liberty, economic liberty. And I find it very interesting all of a sudden that even some conservative so-called publications are wanting to call him a libertarian. Let me just warn the audience. In my book that came out, Marxianity, in 2018, I warned in 2018 in a whole chapter in that book about liberals, progressives, socialists, communitarians. Communitarianism is when you take big government and big business and merge it together. It's called communitarianism. Corporate fascism is another word. The third way is another term. I warned in that book in 2018, be very careful of the progressives who now want to call themselves libertarians. And I went and I explained why. And now you got Bezos. If you go check him out with Amazon and his Washington Post, could this guy be more involved in big government and big business merging together, and with the intelligence community and the Pentagon and the government contracts? I mean, come on. And now all of a sudden he wants to tell us he's a libertarian? I'm not buying it. But isn't it interesting now they're remaking themselves to try to, I think, to stay afloat?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think they see what Elon Musk has been successful with, who I see as more of a libertarian type personality. But that's from observations over a long period of time, and what he's doing with the Trump administration as part of the government. As opposed to some Republicans we see who love their big government and want to see their big government and their big business be part of it together. It's very interesting how the mix gets made up, and these personalities try to shift back and forth to try to meet what the public's expectations are. And really, it's very simple, isn't it, Brandon? We expect our government to be as small as possible. We expect it not to interfere with our individual rights. We expect the people operating the government not to be in it for themselves, but to be in it for public servants. And believe it or not, I see Musk as like that, but Bezos and that ilk, not even close. Not even close at all. As a matter of fact, this USAID scandal, and Mike Benz there talked about $300 million of tax dollars going to Reuters. And you mentioned the Reuters feed, the video feed. They restricted independent media from being able to use the White House stuff, which is crazy when you're paying them all that money, and they're getting paid by my tax dollars. I would think that is that should be a publicly available service, even to citizens, if they're getting that much tax dollars in order to enable themselves to do that.
100%. And we talked to a few attorneys. We talked to one guy who's argued before the Supreme Court several times and won a major case there. So yeah, we're not, we're trying to play nice and go through the process, but at some point, I don't know, it may require some legal action against some of these groups. I'm talking about, not talking about the White House, I'm talking about these press pool people, because I don't think, and again, I'm not an attorney, but I don't think you can take all this government money, turn around and sell this back to other smaller media companies, and then tell them, oh, by the way, any feed come out of the White House or from the president is banned, restricted for U.S. distribution, which apparently what means is, Colonel, people overseas, media networks overseas can carry it, but U.S. restricted. You mean the people that don't pay taxes to the U.S. government overseas can use, but the taxpayers in the U.S., their viewers who do pay taxes can't use it when coming from a company that got really millions of dollars in taxpayer money? I mean, really? No. Yeah,
it's crazy. It's crazy. We got a hand up over in the audience. Let's go ahead and take that question before we go to our break. Shell, go ahead. Who's got their hand up?
We have crazy night, sir.
I don't really have a question, Colonel, but more of a statement. As far as free speech and the media goes and all the propaganda, it's hard to believe that they're going to spread any truth and we can't hold our own government accountable for any truth. For instance, the Epstein list. Mm-hmm. It's going to be redacted. So for me, thinking that we can't hold our government accountable for 100% disclosure, how are we going to hold the media accountable for 100% disclosure? To me, the media is controlled opposition.
Well, the legacy media definitely is. I'll let Brandon comment on this before we go to the break, but it's my view the legacy media definitely is. It's you're right on point there, Crazy Night. And the rise of independent media, this is my view, is important, so important, because as we rise ourselves with journalistic ethics, which is we maintain our independence because we're supposed to be one of the watchdogs on the government for the people to protect their rights. Brandon, go ahead.
Well, this goes back to 1933. John Dewey, the father of progressive education, went over and studied the Karl Marx way of education, the former Soviet Union, came back to America and started implementing that here. John Dewey. He helped start the American Civil Liberties Union with avowed and admitted communist Roger Baldwin. John Dewey brought a group of Marxists to America from Germany that actually had an institute known as the Marxist Institute. We call them the Frankfurt School, Frankfurt, Germany. They came here about 1933 with the help of John Dewey, and were dropped down at Brandeis, Berkeley, Princeton, other places. I did my first seminar in the Frankfurt School at one of my conferences in November of 1997. I had that presented. November of 97, trying to explain to the American people cultural Marxism. And these guys came here and said, we're going to have a long march through the institutions, and we're going to go after two particular institutions: education and media. Education and media. Okay? And guess who helped bring these German intellectuals, these Marxists, to America with John Dewey? A young man in his early 20s by the name of Edward R. Murrow. And Edward R. Murrow, of course, rose to being on CBS radio, then television. And when someone tried to point all this out by the name of U.S. Senator Joseph McCarthy from Wisconsin, Murrow had risen in broadcasting. And he used his position in broadcasting to destroy the truth teller, Joseph McCarthy. So, what did they go after? Wow. Education and media. And we're still to this day fighting to take over and have an even playing field in the media. They don't want to give up because they've used the media to carry out their cultural Marxist revolution by doing what? Saying the source of all suffering and oppression is what? Christianity and capitalism. Yep. Christianity and the free market system. That's what they use the media to do and say. And that's why you can't have flourishing independent media if they can help it, because the whole revolution in America has been acquired through education and media. That's why one reason we went into the media field. That's one reason why my second and third books were on education, because I knew that the cultural Marxists were targeting those two institutions. So we said, guess what? We're going to go into those arenas then and counter them.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue to our next segment to continue this discussion about these government-bought and paid-for media outlets. The critical theories that came out of the Frankfurt School, the Institute of Marxism that Brandon just described, are the same things that have been used to infect the Department of Defense and the United States Armed Forces, our big corporations, our small businesses even, our universities. And the fight to eradicate that stuff has to continue, and the independent media rise is a huge part of that fight. As a matter of fact, I would say we're the tip of the spear and continue to be critically important to the success of eradicating that in the Trump administration. We'll be right back with the CEO of Worldview Tube, Brandon House, here on The Rob Maness Show.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now. And we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview.
USA ID has gotten a lot of attention the last couple of days with some of these bizarre things that we've been, taxpayers have been funding. Now it looks like there are a couple media outlets that have been dragged into this conversation as far as USA ID funding as well. Does the president have any comment on that?
So upon coming out here to the briefing room, I was made aware of the funding from USAID to media outlets, including Politico, who I know has a seat in this room. And I can confirm that the more than $8 million taxpayer dollars that have gone to essentially subsidizing subscriptions to Politico on the American taxpayers' dime will no longer be happening. The DOJ team is working on canceling those payments now. Again, this is a whole of government effort to ensure that